So there we have on the stand the cross-examination of the forensic psychologist. I'm joined today with Ecleynne Mercy. Ecleynne, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Great, great. It's a pleasure to have you here. Ecleynne, as we're hearing this case go on, I'm hearing some good points that the defense is being able to make. I know in the past there was another doctor on the stand that said he could appreciate right from wrong. Now we're hearing a bit of a different story from this doctor. How are you seeing this cross-examination go for the prosecution?
Man, Dr. Dorney is doing the thing. Like, she is cutting it up. So she is breaking down the insanity defense, and she's applying all the stuff from the trial. So, like, she's going back to the fact that he's already had therapy, that these symptoms didn't just pop up one day and he just decided to kill his children. She is laying a proper foundation that this has been going on. And what I'd like to know is that she even addressed the issue of voluntary intoxication with the spice and stated that it didn't create the hallucination, it only probably aggravated, and that he couldn't appreciate right and wrong. And I mean, she's doing an excellent job of just defending her opinion on this case. And I mean, she's doing an excellent job.
No, and I agree. It seems like she's laying down the groundwork for what I believe the defense is going to later then pick apart. And the way in which the testimony came out, we always talk about how it's going to be presented to the jury. I know a lot of defense attorneys sometimes read straight from the transcript. Her testimony is neat and tight, and it's very easy to digest. Do you think that makes it easier going forward for the defense?
Absolutely. It's like a law school outline. She just broke it down. She did the issue, the rule, and the analysis, and a conclusion. And she is not wavering. No matter how you ask her the question, she is not wavering. So what that looks like to the jury is to have this professional who has looked at everything, who had anticipated any question, and she is confident in the analysis that she reached. So I think she's doing an excellent job and is really helping out the defense today.
Yeah, and now I know we're not looking at this witness now, but in the past there was another doctor that testified, and it was very strange. I think even us here at the Law&Crime Trial Network are kind of scratching our heads. The defense put on a doctor that said he could appreciate right from wrong at the time this occurred. I'm not sure why they put him on. I would love to hear your opinion on that, but also I'd want to hear, when you have two doctors being presented by the same side, it appears to be a battle of the doctors. Do you think that this doctor is winning that battle over the other doctor who said that he could appreciate right from wrong?
So here's what happens. As a criminal defense attorney, you want to ask all the questions. You don't want to ask a question you don't know the answer to. And 9 times out of 10, especially when you're getting an expert or a doctor, you want to make sure that they understand what there is. Like, you want to understand what they're going to testify to. And a lot of the times you can't really, it's a crapshoot. And sometimes they can get tripped up, or, it could come out a way in which, all right, the other side can trip them up to say something that is helpful to their side. And I think the defense saw that happening. It happens often, unfortunately. And what they did is they committed to cleaning it up with Dr. Dorney, and she's doing an excellent job. I think she just basically rehabilitated their defense. She has been staunch in her approach. She has been almost like school. She's just breaking it down almost like school. And what I love is, with expert opinions, sometimes they could be as boring as dirt, but she has made it so that she's applying the fact to keep the jury, to just keep the jury interested and keep the jury on task of, listen, here's the element, and here's what's not happening.
Agreed. And it appears that where they might have stumbled in the past with their last witness, now they seem to find their legs and be running straight towards a not guilty, especially by insanity. So it seems the judge is getting a little hungry. So they're off to lunch break for now. Ecleynne, as we're listening to this psychiatrist, we're finding out that she's actually paid for by the defense. And that's not something that's peculiar, that's something that happens all the time. But we found out that she's actually typically paid about $400 an hour, but for indigent clients, she takes a significant cut. So we're not sure how much she's paid for, but it is funded by the defense. Ecleynne, does that change any analysis when you're saying, hey, one psychiatrist is court appointed and said he could appreciate right from wrong. The other one's paid for the defense, so maybe that's why they're so in their favor.
Okay, so the saying "you get what you pay for" is actually really, really applicable in this case. So we have the first court appointed psychologist, and what ends up happening is they don't really get. They only make their decision based on what they have. So a lot of times they only have the jail medical records or maybe testimony or the discovery packet or whatever they have. So and then usually the interview is probably 2 to 3 hours. So in 2 to 3 hours, they expect this psychiatrist to come out with this detailed expert opinion on whether he knew or didn't know, or he had legal wherewithal to commit these crimes. Now you have Dr. Dorney, who is paid, but because she is paid, she has the added bonus or the added reasons and resources to look at the whole case. Now she's going back from childbirth. She's talking about his mother. She is talking about the first therapist. She is deeply ingrained in this case. So there are no ways to trip her up. Her opinion is based on not just the discovery packet. It's not just on what the officers gave her. It's based on him as a whole human being. And the timeline suggests that that is what you actually need. The defense did a Hail Mary and they won. She was necessary to clean up what the first psychiatrist did. She broke it down so it can forever be broke. She did an excellent, excellent job.
Now, just to put that in the context of what you were saying, for our viewers, don't forget that the defense attorney's name is Boyd Young. He is a chief attorney at the South Carolina Commission of Indigent Defense. It is a pretty well-funded organization. So to your point, Ecleynne, they do have the ability to fund other psychiatrists, other doctors, but sometimes when your client is indigent, one will be given to you by the court. And so this, I think, to your point, is maybe a testament as to trying to fund our public defender offices so that we can get proper representation. So it's not just that the rich and the famous get the doctors that are adequate, but also that everyone can get that, because good tides rise all boats. It appears that you're right. The detail here is so astounding that it's going to be very interesting how the prosecution handles that.
Yeah, I don't know how. I don't know how, because she killed it. And to basically attest to what you did say, a lot of the habeas that we see, a lot of the appeals is based on not having the funds for these experts. I mean, not to discount the psychiatrist, the court-appointed psychiatrist, but what you're only given, a lot of times they only have the discovery packet and probably 2 hours with the defendant. That is not enough to be able to really dig in on what his mental capacity was at the time of the offense. You have somebody here who is charged with some of the most gruesome crimes, which is ending the lives of 5 of his children. We need to make sure that he did not have the legal capacity, mental capacity necessary for murder. And I think Dr. Dorney did an excellent job of breaking that down.
Let's take an actual look at what the court-appointed psychiatrist said and compare and contrast to what this psychiatrist said here in this recap. So there we have the court-appointed psychiatrist, and I want to take a second and bring Ecleynne in on this one. We were talking about it during the break. Ecleynne and I both have roots in indigent services as public defenders. Ecleynne, we were talking about where you had started. You were truly in the trenches in Clayton County. And so I think when we talk about the lack of resources and the lack of time, it's not to say that these court-appointed individuals are not excellent at their job. It's just that the mountain of work and the lack of time and the lack of resources, no matter how amazing you are, can be somewhat onerous. And I think when we compare and contrast the court-appointed psychiatrist and the one that was paid, you can almost see in the delivery the difference and the depth of the knowledge.
Yeah, because the cases start to meld to one another. You have a human being who is probably overwhelmed with his caseload. And yeah, you have this big profile case, but he can't physically do everything for everybody. You can't delve into each and every person that you're qualified to basically do an analysis for. So you have this one doctor, Dr. Friesen, who, if you can tell, even in his demeanor, is definitely different than Dr. Dorney. You have him, fiddling through the papers, trying to figure out the answer. One of the questions was, what is your diagnosis? That should come out immediately. He had to look because he's not really familiar with these cases. He can't afford to be. Then you have Dr. Dorney at $400 an hour. I'm going to assume that her caseload is not even close to what Dr. Friesen is. So she has the ability to do some research. She has the resources to do some digging in. And that is what is the difference between court-appointed and sometimes having to make a motion. As a public defender, I used to have to make a motion for expert testimony, make the motion for funds for expert testimony so we can get somebody to really dig in to my client's history and what actually happened on that day.
Exactly. And we're going to continue to compare and contrast and look at the different testimony in this case, especially when they come back after lunch, after this break.